Hello, and wow, it is so loud in the background. Right as I hop on here, I was totally about to put my ear pods on, so I might do that in a moment. But welcome, everyone. Welcome to this week's Next Level Live, and thank you for tuning in. Each week, we're bringing you live interviews with powerful leaders that will inspire you in reaching your next level in life. And this evening, we have special guest KelliAnna Gendalå, who is a hello. She is a sound healer, a Reiki practitioner, and a health coach. And she's dedicated to deep listening and cultivating healing environments. And just kind of an all-around and enchanted woman. So thank you for being here, KelliAnna.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be on and just to have a space to talk about listening. And, I follow what you do. You're amazing. You've done so much in the community. So yeah, I'm excited for this moment.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I really, really am. We've been trying to do an interview for a little while now. All we could say about women who are, you've recently launched your business with your partner, and you guys are out on the road and just kind of up to some magical stuff. And, I have to say, since I first, can you hear me all right?
It's a little interesting. It's almost a little disconnected.
Was it better before I did the thing?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do that.
Oh.
Is here. Can you hear me now? Okay, beautiful. Sorry about that, everyone. I live in Philadelphia, and for those of you who have not visited Philadelphia, it's a little bit lawless here, and people are just out driving their cars really fast, lots of bikers, and so there may be quite a bit of noise. So anyhow.
It sounds exciting.
It is. It's pretty exciting. So so that's my little disclaimer. And yes, welcome. So I just wanted to say, I've been a fan of yours. Ever since I first met you, I was like, who is this enchanted, just the energy that you have is very, very special. You have a very special energy and way about you, a very magical, mysterious way. And I was always like, wow, I bet she has a really, really cool story. So I'm just excited to dive in and hear more about you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Start with the basics. I'm 41.
Okay.
Born in Kansas.
Right.
Dorothy for sure. And then grew up in Houston, Texas until I was in my 20s. Moved to Columbus. It was the first big move that I ever made in my life on my own, right? I was 21, 22, and I was like, I'm doing this thing. And came to Columbus and have loved the journey. Columbus, Ohio is so sweet and lovely.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly cool city. Who would have guessed, right?
Man, I consider it more my home than Houston. My family's in Houston, and of course they're my home, But as far as someplace I love going back to, it's Columbus, Ohio. Yeah.
That's so. And how many years have you been in Columbus at this point?
It's a little washy because I came here 16 years ago, and then I went to New York for 4 years in that time frame, and then came back a couple of years ago. So
New York also.
Yeah. I'm part owner of Fia Salon in the Short North, and it was a manager and then a hairstylist, and then I went to New York and worked with some of the top hairdressers in the world. Worked on the sets of Elle, Vogue, and Glamour. It was great, but New York was too much, and so I ended up coming back.
Okay, yeah, and it's interesting for those of us who have done the bigger cities. When I left LA, I was like, yeah, I think I don't know if I need to live there again. It's great to go visit, and I feel the same way about New York. It's sometimes it's just a little too much to be in that aggressive energy all the time.
It really is, and especially the more that I'm, the more we're developing sound as listening, Jeremy and I in the company, and the more that I grow as a person, I'm super sensitive. I'm sensitive to sound, I'm sensitive to energy, and so being in that field where there's so many different things going on at one time, it shut me down. It was an overload. Wow. So now even thinking about the plans that we have with getting the camper and going on the road, which we can get into, the idea of being out in nature and cultivating environments of serenity where I can hear myself is top priority. Total
Mm.
temporary. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. So it's such a great idea, you know, taking the, like, what I gathered from what you're up to is like some of it is just like really holding the presence and the like really being present in the moment to allow your wisdom and people's truths to come through. It's like such a foreign idea for most of us who are out there just like in the chaos of the world and driving all the time, you know, driving things forward.
Yeah, yeah. And something that kept coming to me today, or actually yesterday, I was watching a webinar on marketing, and I kept hearing speak to listen.
Mm.
It's a concept that I feel like most people, or the way that we're trained, we're speak to talk, right? We're speak to drive, we speak to do something or accomplish something. And it's really beautiful when we get into that present moment, when I get into that present moment and I speak to experience what happens in that space, not to control it, not to do anything other than to fall into that presence. And I'm still working on that concept, but yeah, I'm wondering what it would be like if people entered conversations in order to speak to listen.
Yeah, and that's probably what some of what you're teaching people to do with the work that you're doing.
Very much. Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So how did you get into sound healing? Like, were you a singer at any point? Like, how did you find the art of sound healing?
Gosh, where do you want me to start? I heard my mother speaking in the womb. No. Gosh, I feel like I've been on an adventure to listen forever. You know, I had a that was beautiful and was rough. There was a lot of things that were going on in my life, and you know, I fell into being, you know, having drug addiction and you know, having a really rough upbringing where at times I was running away. There was a moment when I was homeless. You know, I started selling drugs so that I could get my drugs for free. I was less than a size 1, and like the world was shutting down on me. And I got to a place where I was homeless, living out of a hotel.
Wow.
And my fiance and I at the time had split, and you know, I had lost everything. Like everything that I was gone.
Wow.
And there was this choice point where I knew I could keep going and essentially end my life.
Expire. Yeah.
Or I could decide that I was something. And I had this moment in that hotel room where I kept hearing that I can do this, that I can be someone, that I'm meant for something, right? We're all here, we're all meant for something. But it was in this moment that I heard it. And then this crazy thing happened where my mom got a hold of me and was like, I'm buying us tickets to go to San Diego to visit your brother for 10 days. I got you a ticket. And I was like, does she know what is going on? And my mom and I are so spiritually connected. Going through something and she'll text and be like, what's going on? And I can do the same for her. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of me really learning to listen, because I heard that sweet voice, you know, like the voice that our authentic voice. I heard it and I finally couldn't deny it. I don't know why I heard it. I might have been able to hear it because I was so exhausted from the lifestyle that I was living. So I went with my mom and I slept most of the time and ate food and regained health. And I came back and I was like, I just turned my life around. I had been used to being like a go-go dancer, you know, on the boxes for a little while. I was a stripper, you know, like I had gone all the way. Like I was going for it. You know?
Oh my God. Wow.
And so
you were like all in on the lifestyle, it sounds like, huh?
I was all in. And so, you know, I went from that lifestyle of being like, you know, the girl at the club that, you know, that was dressed all nice and the makeup and, you know, the bodyguard and the boyfriend that was the doorman, and everybody like, oh, you're so great. And we're all like, we're all so great, which was fun. And then I went to California, came back, and I got a job at Einstein Bagels. Being a baker.
And you started eating food again. Oh my gosh.
And so I got a job at Einstein Bagels, and you know, I put on this collared shirt that was green that said Einstein Bagels. I mean, I don't think I'd ever worn a collared shirt before. You know, I was wearing like dresses and fancy outfits, and I put on khakis, you know, and I like put those on, and I had never worn khakis. It wasn't something that was the environment, but you know, I put it on, Alexa, and I looked in the mirror, and it was the best I had felt like in years, because I was choosing me. And I would go into Einstein Bagels and I would bake that bread, and I was the happiest person behind making people sandwiches, like greeting them like, hi, because I was so excited just to be like on the right track that I was like, yes. And I remember people just being like, you are the nicest sandwich maker. And I was like, I know. Yes. So, you know, I say all that, I bring all that up because people.
Oh no, I'm not sure if that's my internet or yours.
Is it bad? Can you hear me?
KelliAnna, is it possible that can you hear me and see me properly?
Yeah.
You can? Okay, yours was like stalling maybe a lot, so maybe it's okay now. You seem to be back, but it was coming out pretty dramatically there. So cool. Now I see you better. So maybe, I don't know, can you repeat maybe that last like sentence or two?
Yeah, I say all that, you know, I bring that story up for a specific reason of, you know, we all have these moments where we can hear ourselves. And for so many people, it takes the wake-up call, right?
Yes.
For me, being alone in a hotel, exhausted. And so my passion is to make sure that people learn how to do that before they need a wake-up call. You know, like, let's stop waiting for life or waiting for ourselves to get so far removed from of who we are.
Wow.
Let's learn to do it all the time, every day, as much as possible. And so I would say that was my beginning of, you know, diving into spirituality, diving into fasting and cleansing, you know, going and doing meditation, and really knowing that the world that I lived in wasn't creating healthy environments. In fact, it was difficult to find healthy environments.
Yes.
And it's still that way. I mean, it's more difficult to find a healthy environment than it is, you know, for it to come easily.
Yeah, it's surprising to me how kind of like, I want to say vapid the world is out there, but that's not quite the word that I'm looking for. But like kind of a wasteland, and in certain spaces, it really is this like cultural wasteland where people are just so void of, like, I'm going to say humanity, really, when you think about like the truth of what humanity means, of like having a connection to something bigger than yourself, having a connection to each other, having a community, having a purpose, having like a vision for what's possible in life. Like, it's such a wasteland when you're emotionally cut off from your higher self and from your inner guidance and from your knowingness. It's really bleak.
It is bleak. It is. And I mean, gosh, I have so many thoughts on this topic. I'm like,
yeah, let's hear it.
The world as we know it the systems they're completely off. I mean, the majority of people are taught to buy, be an image, serve somebody else, drop their dreams, stop doing things because they're adults. You know, I feel like the world is becoming human batteries for people to make money that aren't giving back, that aren't changing the world. You know, there's a lot of greed, but man, you know, when I do our sound baths, it's like the health and wellness coaching is something I'm passionate about all of it, right? Like, I love seeing the results in our clients. I stand for them. It's great. What led me into that health and wellness coaching is this other experience with sound baths, where it is my gift. It is such a gift to have people come into a room and trust me enough to lay down, close their eyes, let down all their guard, and take a moment to hear their authentic selves. And my experience is a lot of people don't even feel safe doing that in their own homes.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. It's a problem if we don't have that discipline or that ritual or that routine that allows us to be in relationship with ourselves. And in fact, you know, the word or phrase, I love you, it's like, you know, it used to mean something when people said it, but now it gets to mean something because of what we do with it, not what we say. And so, you know, I'm going into kind of a tangent of, you know, listening to yourself begins with learning how to love yourself, begins with learning how to create environments, standing for your environment, standing for your home, you know, everything, your work, what you're putting out there, and really being mindful about what is this energy creating for me? What's my relationship with this thing?
With this thing being the frequency, being the energy that you're putting out, or the thought that you're thinking, or the general mindset, or not mindset, but headspace that you're in, right? Like what are you creating in the reality for your internal reality, right? And then that's reflected on the outside. It's interesting. Eckhart Tolle, in one of his, like, probably The Power of Now, was like, you know, when we clean up what's going on in our minds, the pollution outside will absolutely take care of itself. Like, it's a direct reflection of what we have going on in our heads. And at that point I was like, that's a really radical idea, you know? But now, as I've gotten deeper and deeper, I'm like, wow, it really is. I mean, it totally is. We would not be creating any of the destructive things. We actually are generative by nature, but we're just so deconditioned, dehumanized at this point, and disconnected. I mean, not everyone, right? Like, no, not everyone. Right. And that's what this movement is all about, is like waking more and more people up to your divine guidance. Because the truth is, when you're more emotionally connected, you're more emotionally connected to your internal guidance system. And that is the thing that connects us all to each other, actually.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And talking, you know, like people using their voice, me using my voice, you know, telling our stories and being vulnerable. I think that people have this idea that once you start listening to yourself, or once you have some enlightenment, that life is going to be like happy.
No, you know? Not necessarily.
No, if it's, you know, if anything, the bigger I become, the more open to listening I become, the more I hear. You know what I'm saying? And so it is, for me, it's about learning how to engage with energies without judging them. Because it's that judgment that stops us from listening. You know, it's that control that makes it about us in our own world, and then we don't experience the magic that's going on. So, yeah.
And do you feel when you say judging, do you feel like that's like starts with internal judging, or all judging?
It's a great question. I feel like, well, there's you know, nothing is right or wrong, right? It is what it is. Right. There's no such thing as good or bad. You know, there's no such thing as positive or negative. It's, you know, what's good for someone could be terrible for someone else. All the things. Yeah. So there is what there is. So it's a really interesting thought process to think about what is judgment and when is judgment necessary. And so when I'm in flow, right? When I'm in flow with you, or right now with someone else, I'm more expressing the emotions and words as they come up in my body. And when talk, I'm feeling it, and I'm going through all these things. I don't have a calculated expression for you. So like, I'm not waiting for you to say something, and I'm not waiting for myself to say something. Right. And of course, at times I am, because and we're human. Right. So it's that, if I hang out with someone and I'm automatically like, God, they're like really, I could have two experiences. I could be like, man, they're in a really shitty mood right now, and it's annoying.
Totally. Yep.
And I've chosen that. I've chosen that about myself. I've chosen that about other people. And I want to say, at that point in time, I've stopped listening.
Yes.
I could be hanging out with someone and be like, man, what's going on? You know, like, I totally relate to what you're feeling, and let's
unpack that. Yeah.
You know, like, I'm with you. I see you. And, you know, like, yeah, be angry about that. Go ahead. Like, let that shit out. Be angry. And let's see what you want to do next. but I feel like our world is so conditioned that emotions get to be held in, that we can't be angry, that we can't have things going on. And so that anger or emotions are bad. And so a lot of people out there are more like robots. I get it, because sometimes I'm a robot, and and then they're not experiencing. So there's so much time when we're in the program, which Joe Dispenza talks about, right? When you're running your program.
Yeah. Like your conditioning, right? Like your automatic reactions and stuff, right? Habits. Yeah.
You're waking up, you know how your day's going to go. You've got it scheduled. You're doing all the things. You're in your habit. But like, what are you experiencing? What are you learning? What are you having?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's my brain.
We're like, and that might be the end of that thought. That might be complete thought. So I want to bring it because I think that the Joe Dispenza is perfect moment for me to segue to a gentleman who I just discovered recently. His name is Chris Duncan. Okay. And he does something called magnetic mind. And I guess he was a student for quite some time of Joe Dispenza. He's a younger guy. He's like in his 30s, but he's created something pretty cool. He talks to the superconscious as he like recodes your superconscious, right? Which I'm gathering as like the field of energy that Joe Dispenza talks about. For all of those of you who don't know who Joe Dispenza is, definitely check him out. Cutting edge quantum physics, he's like, science is the modern mysticism, basically. Like, it can all be proven at this point. So this guy kind of takes it up a notch and talks about some pretty cool stuff. He's put some things together that I really was enjoying what he was saying. But he was talking about how we get conditioned to never be in the present moment as kids, and how there's like this whole, it's probably for every echelon of society, but as somebody who grew up middle class, which, I was middle class, I was lower middle class for parts of that. Like, we were on food stamps for parts of that. Like, and then there were times when it was like, wow, we kind of have all the things that we want right now. It was just up and down. But, there's this way of conditioning each of us to like, we're not happy right now. We have to just put our heads down, work hard, and then someday in the future, we're going to be happy. And I think that that's mostly the way that people are conditioned in this version of culture, right? Yeah. And like how, and just like, he was like unpacking like the fundamental, just like not rightness of that. If your whole psyche is built on this foundation of like, I'm not happy now, but maybe one day in the future, I'll be happy when I have X, Y, and Z. It's like, no wonder everybody's so bereft, right?
Yeah. If you're saying the majority of the time I can't be happy yet, then I don't know how you can learn how to be happy. Because learning to be happy is a skill.
Yeah,
it's something we learn to do, and it takes practice. It takes discipline. It takes environments. It takes gratitude and appreciation. And sometimes it still doesn't happen, and we get to be happy with the fact that we're not happy.
But we're like, hey, this is where I'm at in the process, and I'm learning to be happy. And I don't know, for you, was that a journey to happiness?
Oh man, yes. And it's still a journey, it is because I feel like I'm relearning that it's not about being happy, right? It's not being happy or sad. It's about experiencing. And I think I most enjoy life when I feel authentic and honest in the moment, no matter what it is. Mm. And so if I am honest and authentically joyful, that feels great. If I am honestly, authentically pissed off and I'm letting that out, that feels great. If I'm honest, sad, just crying, I really just cry and let that out and own that part of me, it feels great.
Yeah.
But it's those, for me, it's the self-judgment of I shouldn't be sad. I'm supposed, like, I just did a sound bath this last Sunday, Alexa, and I was going through so many emotions in my body as Jeremy and I built this company, and building a company in a partnership, you're like learning to work an organism together. And so it's feeling emotional, and I didn't feel like I could talk. I actually didn't want to hear the sound of my own voice. And so, right, it was rough in there. It was rough.
Yeah. Yep.
So I asked Jeremy to do the intro, and that's not something he's used to doing, but he just jumped in and he did it. I asked Megan Adair, she was there doing a cacao ceremony and Reiki, and I asked her to do the ending. And she just jumped in and did the ending. And as much as I was going through and also offering this service, right, this opportunity of sound healing, I looked around and I was like, wow, I am allowed to be not okay and trust my surroundings and be okay with not being okay and not faking showing up. Like, there's no part of me that could be like, okay, so now this is the end and my name's KelliAnna Gendalå, and it was whatever I do when I'm
your coach.
Yeah. I wasn't in the flow, but I got to be okay with not being in the flow.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so you're saying, did you notice that shifted you? It probably shifted you faster than if you had been fighting against it that whole time.
It did shift me faster because I was able to accept where I was at instead of do what the world wants us to do, which is push through it, show up anyways. These people are depending on you. This is not how you normally do the sound baths. You're working this, all those thoughts. And I thought, no, I can't, I'm not going to. I'm not going to be somebody that I feel that I can't be right now. And, how many times people, individuals who are working 40 hours a week call up their boss and say, you know what, I just don't feel like I can be the person I need to be today at work and I'm not coming in. And that person be like, you know what, I totally get that. Cool.
Right. Yeah. Probably more so these days with being able to just zoom in. Right.
But that's true. Yes. Yes.
But generally not so much. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, for you around your spirit, because like what I hear around your shift into life, right, is that you had like a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And what was the moment that you went into it a little bit, but I'm just curious for you, because a lot of people, to break addiction and to break a certain habit of life, they have to go to a program and they have to like sort of devote themselves to this thing. And that becomes kind of like their new identity. So for you, like, what was the shift, the internal shift that just like aligned for you?
That broke it. God, that's a yeah. So for me, with the substance I was using, which was speed at the time,
wow,
I had this crazy idea that I would just do it until I couldn't do it anymore. And so I had a night where I just did as much as possible. And listen to this here. This is going to sound crazy, and it was crazy. And I don't advise this to anybody who is coming off of drugs.
Right. Well, if they live to tell the tale, then it worked. But yeah.
Right. But what I understood about speed in general is that it was giving me some kind of high, and it was escalating my thought patterns, right? And so I was like feeling good. I was feeling happy. I could do this. I could do that. I was fearless. I was da-da-da-da. And so I was like, oh, if this is what the drug does, what if I do it until I can't do it by switching my thought pattern? And so I would do what I was doing, and I would think, this is terrible. I can't believe I'm doing this. This is wasting my life. What are you doing? Look at yourself in the mirror, until I hated it. And I could have died.
Wow.
I could have. And I don't know why I chose that process, Alexa, but it was one of the biggest tools of me learning that my thoughts create who I am and what I'm going through, and I'm the master at doing, it's up to me.
Wow. So yeah. It sounds like the outcome of you choosing that is that you realize that you are master of your own thoughts and your mind.
Yes.
Mastered your mind in that experience.
I mastered the mind, and then I let it go. And I just went to work at Einstein Bagels. And everything was perfect.
And you moved back to Kansas.
Yeah. So yeah. It's interesting.
Wow. Very cool, KelliAnna. Very, very cool. Well, I'm definitely so much wisdom. And, I think you're definitely on the right path, because you truly have many, many gifts. And insights and wisdom to share with others and share with the world. So cool that you're on your path and you're making a difference in the way that you are. And wow, it's like, I can't wait to follow your journey. How can people follow you and see more of what you're up to?
Yeah, they can go to our website, which is soundislistening.com.
Okay.
We're also on Instagram, and we are on Facebook, and we're on Meetup if you're on Meetup.
Nice.
So the other thing too is, we're always open for people reaching out to us and emailing us with questions or, whatever it is they're looking to do. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being with us this evening, KelliAnna. And thank you guys all for tuning in. We love you. Ward Farabee gave a shout out, Diane Honing, Elena Nicolo Jackson, Aunt Nicolau, and Yvonne Ronaldo Woodson, who's my mom, and you're staying at her house right now. Yeah.
So
Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, yay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a beautiful evening. Yes.